In 3,
Three.
2, 1.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Molitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We enter our off-season programming schedule for now and the future, where we get together on Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We talk a little evergreen topics just between the two of us. And then we follow it up with an interesting interview on Wednesday with try to get some advantage players in the space, pick through what's going on with them and their process. If we can, weave it into the evergreen topic, all the better. But this is going to be a fun off-season experience. How was your first weekend without NFL, Andy? Did you make it? Was it a stressful or relaxing experience?
I bet a bit of basketball. I bet a bit of tennis. I bet some NASCAR. It was kind of nice that the NASCAR race was delayed by thunder and lightning and whatnot, because I was sweating golf, basketball, and one other. I can't remember what else was going on. I was sweating golf. Well, the Aussie Open was at night. I think I was sweating the end of the golf tournament because I don't post outrights because I don't really play them for any serious amount of money. But the fact that when DJ went out and he was 20% of the betting market, my hand was kind of forced when books are slow to react, and just like, well, I'm going to pick a few guys that I have high on my, I'm going to pick the next favorite. I'm going to pick like 3 guys I like, and the 3 guys I like Siwoo, I like Tringali, and I like Daniel Berger, and I will always have Daniel Berger high. So I got Berger like 18 to 1, I think. So that was it was a fun little sweat. So, and that's another reason why we talked off air. I was trying to do a withdrawal because Danny B top 5 hits. And so that was nice. And then also I was sweating some golf. I had a golf matchup on Sunday. I had Tulane going. I was betting some other totals somebody else gave me. So it was nice not to have to sweat the NASCAR stuff till late that night. But then also I stayed up till forever o'clock watching NASCAR, which is not great. So I'm glad there's other sports. I'm glad golf is off to a decent start. I'm glad the Aussie Open has been a ton of fun. If you're listening to this live, if you're listening to this right away on Monday night, there is a killer slate over the next couple days. So many great matchups in the Aussie. But I think I've done okay. It's cold as shit up here. Valentine's went good. I mean, did you smooch anyone for Valentine's Day?
Oh yeah, Valentine's Day was a winning weekend in the Whale household. Yeah.
I feel like you're like me. You would cook or something. Order in like a schmuck. Oh man.
No, I didn't do any of the cooking, but we had some good meals. We did a brunch on Sunday that was pretty outstanding. We did some good cooking on Saturday night. It was a great weekend all around. And like you said, the Aussie Open's been super fun. Basketball has been tough go for me. I have not had a great NBA week. My NBA week was up and down. Didn't really get hurt, but it wasn't great. And then they tailed one of our buddies on a golf matchup that was an absolute no-doubter, which was a lot of fun. But that's kind of what we want to get into today. The first of our evergreen topics. We're going to talk a little bit about tailing plays, a little bit about tailing, fading, free picks in general. How the Twitter ecosystem, how it works, what your experiences you remember when you were young, a new player coming into this, and how you choose to tail or fade people, and some of the impacts that has on you as a bettor. And a lot of people are probably going through this. A lot of people, as we talked about last week, like the NFL is over, but they have money in they're flush, their bank account, their bankrolls are flush, or they want to start betting on these other sports. Maybe they don't have an expertise in it. Maybe they're looking to the internet to find someone who is perceived subject matter expert that is posting their picks for free that they can either tail or fade. And it is been sort of the backbone of gambling Twitter, I would say, at least from my experience on gambling Twitter, because I learned in the first month that the easiest way to get new followers is to put free picks on your timeline.
Yeah.
And that still is the easiest way to get
people love that shit.
Yeah.
Even if they're not all that good, it's fun. It's fun engagement. Even, there's trolls and there's shitheads and bad people, but even if people disagree with your picks, that can lead to fun engagement where you can have a good conversation. Like, hey, did you know this or that? Or
we wouldn't be doing a podcast if you hadn't disagreed with some of my tennis picks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they were bad. But
but if you hadn't said anything, if I hadn't been putting my plays up there for free, and you hadn't been chirping me when I was making bad picks after I shared my numbers, then for all we know, you'd be doing a podcast with someone else right now.
Yeah, probably like Rachel Nichols or somebody famous. Anyway, that was fun. And it was a Davis Cup country to advance round robin play. That was one of the first ones I played of yours, and it was fun because it's like a multiple day thing. That was fun.
Yeah.
And this is a story I've told before. It's probably the lead in to me getting into gambling Twitter at all was finding NROP, and any of the OGs would remember NROP. And just, I've told this story before. I remember thinking I found the lost city of El Dorado. Like, oh man, this guy wouldn't just put these picks out for, if they were bad, would he? Like, he's just telling me who's going to win. And the first 2 days or something, it did well. I'm like, oh my God, you're thinking about how I'm going to move to Vegas. I'm retiring and I'm a professional sports gambler now as I'm, putting $20 a pop down on tailing his picks. And then he has a 10-star, I'm putting 10 units on it. And of course that lost. And that was my first, experience in realizing this is nobody's good at this.
Well, did you immediately make a burner and start shit talking, or did you wait a couple more 10-star losses?
I haven't made a burner. It took a while before I made a burner. First burner was probably tennis, the tennis birthday one.
Oh yeah, the birthday feed. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, it was. I came to Twitter later than a lot of other people. I was never really part of the forum space. I guess, did you ever go on the gambling forums? Was that a thing?
Not as much as some people. Some people were very deep into the forums.
Yeah, I definitely read the SBR forum and got recommendations of what books were actually gonna, survive versus the ones that were a little more illiquid and a little bit less likely to make it. But I never really participated in the discussion about handicapping. I never really was into that. And a lot of people learn that way. A lot of people kind of cut their teeth that way. And there were a lot of people who were doing the right things on those forums, kind of sharing information, sharing picks and things like that without really asking for anything at all. And then there were others who were obviously trying to leverage a hot streak into selling packages, portraying themselves as, plus EV players with the advantage information that you could buy. And if you were willing to pay this, then you can get in on the scam, on this great money-making opportunity. But in reality, it was all a scam. And that's something that's part of this as well. And, and there are for sure, you start putting free picks out there, not everybody's motivations are the same. There's a level of responsibility that I've kind of learned the hard way through the years, because, the more people start following you, you throw a tweet out there hey, I bet this, that's one of, 800 bets maybe, right? What's so special about this one? And somebody sees that, they might trigger them to go make a bet that they wouldn't otherwise, right? And there is a little bit of that sort of responsibility that I feel kind of not great about just throwing free picks around like crazy. I'm much more interested in, if you're doing a handicap and you ask me a question or something like that, I'll absolutely kind of engage and say, yeah, well, no, I bet this side and this is why. These are the reasons. That's a good sort of healthy back and forth through someone who I think is willing to share information and share picks more so than just sort of posting and, trying to get, engagement via like or retweet for posting free picks. But everybody kind of does it a different way. And for sure, when I came to Twitter in maybe 2015, we'll say, I had similar experience to you. one of my friends was like, hey, look, follow these 4 or 5 guys. They put up free picks and they're awesome, and you're like, okay, cool. And then you hit a couple winners tailing these guys and you're like, wow, like it's this easy. Like you just got to follow these accounts and you win money doing like this. This is crazy. And sure enough, there's survivorship bias at play. If sure enough, there are a number of factors that play into who kind of somebody will go on a heater basically. And if you're tailing their picks, you may think like, okay, this is all plus EV information, and maybe it is. But there's for sure certain ways that you want to evaluate people. And we'll get into kind of evaluating people who are providing information in the gambling space. But it was pretty clear and back in 2016 that there was sort of a vacuum of subject matter expertise in the sports betting space. Certainly no one, with clout, with a name recognition, was really providing lots of good free information in terms of what to actually bet on. It was tough to kind of sift through that. And if you threw your hat in the ring and started providing free picks or your numbers or whatever, that was a really, really quick way to gain and grow an audience. And in fact, to this day, people ask me all the time, like, hey, how did you get an audience on Twitter? Like, what was the mechanism? It was providing free picks, period.
Yeah.
Like that is all there is to it. Yeah. 100%. Like no questions asked. Like people love free picks. If I've learned nothing else on Twitter over the 5 years that I've been, engaged in gambling Twitter stuff, people love free picks.
And it's fun. It's fun that when they win too. It's fun.
It's really fun when they win. The community wins. Oh yeah.
No, it's that is fun, but there are some pitfalls to that too. I've told this story before too, where I put, I do like to bet every edge, and there was like a Saturday where I bet 9 or 10 games on a college bet Saturday. And I don't know why or what I was doing, but I went down to the casino to play craps, to have some fun. And apparently I really didn't pay attention because first off, there's a few TVs there and they're showing whatever's on, probably college football, maybe some premier college basketball games. It was the fall. And I didn't watch my games because they weren't on TV and I was playing crap, so I didn't pay attention. Turns out I went like 1-4 in the first 5 games. And I got a DM from a guy, hey, you're not doing so hot today. Should I double down on these last 5 or whatever? And I just, I didn't respond to that because, lesson number 1, no. Like bankroll management, just because they're not your plays doesn't mean bankroll management should be thrown out the window. So I didn't respond to the guy. And then, I went like 2-3 in the last 5, or maybe even, it's worse. Who knows? Either way, it wasn't a good Saturday. And it was just a bunch of messages. It's like the crazy ex-girlfriend, just 30 texts from her, but it was just him talking to himself. And he's like, boy, you really do suck shit. It's funny, like I can always remember.
You're like, that. Wow.
I can always remember that DM. Like,
at least no one said, "I hope you trip on your surfboard, you California douchebag." That one still sticks with
that
me.
One. That one is one of the best trolls ever. But it's just funny, like because again, it was a season in which I was successful. It was a season when I won, and it was it was one bad Saturday, and I think that is the biggest pitfall about tailing free picks. It can be, I don't want to say it like turns into a job, but it can turn into, you can have, a big bunch of FOMO. You can end up with, like I said, bad bankroll management. Let's say you have a guy you've been following and he's playing well. He's doing well. When he bets, he gets closing line value, all the good indicators. He's not throwing out 10-unit bombs and stuff. He seems like a responsible bettor who has a decent system and a small edge and is winning. And he puts out some plays and you missed them. You forgot to bet them. And he goes like 4-0 on those. So then he puts out some more later in the day or the next day, and you double down on those because you're so mad that you missed these winners. And it always happens. So let's go like 1-3. And then you put yourself in a bad place and you're mad at this guy and you're mad at yourself. And like, I think that's the biggest thing I see with the story I just told. Like the bankroll management is still so important. It doesn't matter who you're betting through, who you're betting on, or who you're betting for or with. It's still going to just ruin your experience if you start doing shit like that. That's what I see the most of, I think.
Yeah. No, and that's tricky. And I guess we'll get into that in a little bit more detail, I think, because there are for sure kind of ways to, if you're a fairly new player, for instance, there are for sure ways to try to limit the degree to which you are influenced, impacted by the FOMO part of it, which is very real. Someone who you follow carefully and listen to a lot of content about, and you happen to miss the one key piece of information that makes everyone else rich but you that's tough. That's tough to to deal with mentally. But kind of going back to the start of this thing, a guy I was good friends with, shared my football numbers with him in the early going. He got to be, he was like, the stuff you're coming up with is good. Like whatever you're doing, to come up with these numbers for NFL, they're good. Like, I like this. Like, you should start sharing this. And, you'll draw an audience, and you'll start to grow a following. I didn't even know if that was something that I wanted at the time, for sure. Yeah. But number two, you'll get feedback on these, and the payoff for sharing free numbers, for sharing free picks, oftentimes is networking, the networking effect, right? And if you're not going to get discovered, you're not going to make a relationship if you want to be an originator and you want to have someone who can, move picks for you and bet into a bunch of accounts. You're not going to be able to do that as effectively if you don't develop some, what's the right word? Reputation or resume. If you don't build some sort of proof that what you have is valuable. And a decent, easy, good way to start to kind of make an impact in this industry, in this community, and gambling Twitter in general, is start sharing picks, track them truthfully, track them effectively. There's often kind of the most common stuff you see is people will post picks and then not do recaps, or do recaps sloppily, only recap on winning days, only recap with lots of emojis and getting lots of attention, only post picks when you get a certain amount of retweets, a certain amount of likes. Like, these are all, social engineering, strategies, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to call anybody out. Maybe I won't either, because I'm just too nice, and, I'm a nice Midwestern boy, but some of that stuff is annoying. Like I've never done the, hey, 18 more likes and I'll release my banger for the day. It is what it is. I'm fine with that. But there's one lately, and I won't even mention the account, but I don't think it's burners. I think he's giving out free picks or something. If somebody posts this, people will just go under these gambling accounts, or like there's, BR betting or one of these big accounts, and they'll post, oh my gosh, have you heard about this account? I hear they never miss.
My gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I heard he was also playing this guy's picks. That guy just doesn't miss. Like, I see those all over. I've been muting a lot of accounts because of that. But I mean, it is, there's a lot of hustlers out there, and they're hustling, and I guess I got to respect them a little bit for that.
Yeah. And so I think maybe lesson number one to take away from this discussion is, anyone's posting free picks, take it with a grain of salt, interpret it with a degree of skepticism, right? There are not all, the people like you and me who got into this and posted picks largely with the ultimate goal of developing some means of proof that you have subject matter expertise in a growing field that was lacking any subject matter experts. The quickest and most effective way for us to do that was to share free picks, track them honestly. Yeah. And if you are, so kind of think about what people's motivations are, because pretty clearly, here we are doing radio and TV and internet shows, and, lots of paid opportunities in the sports betting media space. And it's not an accident, right? Like, this was the payoff. Like, we were giving away lots of free information, doing free podcasts with information, and there was a payoff involved, for sure. And there's a payoff for everyone. No one's out there giving away information that's any good without some sort of angle, or without some sort of ultimate goal. And a lot of the people, their ultimate goal is just to trick you into thinking what they have is valuable, when in reality it's just coin flipping, right? And so kind of keep in mind what people's motivations are for putting up free picks, for sure. And that there are now actually, and props to our powered by BetSperts, there are applications which are more effective than ever at trying to kind of siphon out the signal from the noise, trying to make it especially hard for the bullshit artists to really get a strong toehold in the community, and if what they have isn't of value. So it seems.
And I don't want to put us on a pedestal and say like we did this completely benevolently and we're just excited to be talking to you guys and drive engagement and have conversation. And honestly, we are like, that's all fun. I really do enjoy engagement. I enjoy talking sports. I enjoy talking gambling, whether it's with you on this podcast, on other podcasts, or in the DMs, in Twitter, DM groups, or just on the timeline or anywhere else. I enjoy all that. But, at the same time, like we said, we were looking to work on our networking and meet people who could help us get better at this. I think we're very successful in that. Not only just meeting some people that were able to help us along with the media thing, but betting and just we learned a shitload from a lot of smart people over a period of time. I think that was massive. But I mean that's something I would take into account too when you're looking at somebody who's giving out free picks. Like think about what they're after. Because that was an old, that's an old Twitter scam. That's maybe the first old Twitter scam there was guy starts like 5 Twitter accounts and makes a bunch of plays, and then he discards 4 of them. Whichever one got the hottest, that one's all of a sudden selling. Like, oh, now I'm a tout. Like
that's not even an old Twitter scam. That's happening this minute, right now.
But
there are people, yes, without question. And yeah, I guess. The first thing I can even say is if it's important to evaluate the quality of the information, like our friend Femi brought up, like he's looking for someone who's actually providing an explanation for why they played what they played, not just splashing a tweet with a bunch of free picks on it. But there's for sure a couple of key things you can look out for to help kind of sift through the noise at face value. Like, is this person tracking their plays carefully? Like, are they sloppy about that, or are they actually doing a fair job of giving you the prices, for instance, that they paid? Right, the juice matters. Juice matters is exceptionally important. Price matters to a very, very strong degree. Are they getting closing line value? Do you see a posted pick that is posted in a timely manner that price, one, did it exist recently or ever, right? And and two, are they, is the market moving with or against them? Because believe me, like, it's very, very tough to do, the NFL card and get it out to people in a way that any of that information is useful, because by the time it's like all kind of combined into one thing to send out, like, yeah, a lot of those bets are made on Monday and Tuesday and the number is gone. And I have 9 plays or 7 plays and 4 of them have great closing line value. The other 3 don't. Well, guess what? The only 3 bets you can still get down are the ones that the market didn't agree with, which presumably are the worst of the plays on that card, right? So it's a very complicated, I guess, way of trying to communicate with people and trying to help share information and stuff. And the bigger, your audience grows, the more difficult it is to do it without, creating a feedback loop, right? So I guess did you read that? It's funny you talk about getting,
people trying to tail a capper or tail their favorite handicapper and make sure they get the right number. And that's something I got complaints about when I was posting a lot of soft bet online openers.
Yes.
That stuff.
Yes.
That's right. I don't play a lot of overnights anymore, not only for that reason, but for other reasons that I just can't get much money down on those. But, that was annoying, not only on my end. I'm sure it was very frustrating for other people. Like, I'd like to bet these, but, if like 10 people bet $200 on one of those picks, it's going to move 2 points because it's a crazy soft opener in a small conference. So it doesn't take very many people to wreck those. And it's funny. I don't remember. I'm trying to find this thread, but I read a thread today on Twitter about somebody, a tout, he sold plays. And he's like, he was having a winning season and he got a complaint from a guy saying, oh, I'm getting my ass kicked. I'm losing money. And he's like, I don't understand that. Even if you got the worst of the number, you should be winning. And this other guy was able to sell it or buy as many points as possible. So if he missed the best of the number, he would buy to it, to the point where he was laying like minus 200. This tout loses a play. and loses minus 110, loses 1.1 units. This other guy's losing 2 or better sometimes. So I mean that's part of the bankroll management, and honestly just the common sense. Like, and I think a lot of people, maybe once we get to some math episodes, we can get into that too, like just how crazy bad that is. But that's the thing. Like, if you can't get the best of the number, if you really do think there's somebody who's putting quality information, putting time, thought, process into their picks, and they're getting closing line value, they're hitting all the indicators for being a halfway decent originator of some sort of sport, and you can never get the number, maybe you need to look at your outs. You need to look at where you're betting, because you'll have people like, oh, I can't get that. What books do you have? I just have this book. Yeah, like that's issue number one. Like, you're going to need more outs if you want to try to get some of these. There's places that just don't move very fast. There's always going to be stale numbers. And that can be a whole different issue too if you get too wild on some of that, on books that are slow, slow poke numbers like that. You can get limited and have problems with that. But at the same time, if you're going to go the complete opposite direction and just have one out, tailing someone else's plays might be an issue. Because if you do get the worst of the number every time at your shitty sports book that you're deciding to use exclusively, you can run into some problems there where, the guy you're following is winning, but you're breaking even or doing badly.
Yeah. So what we're dancing around is really the whole key point of why we wanted to do this podcast, or at least why I wanted to, which is to point out that it is extremely hard, maybe impossible, to tail someone and long-term be profitable, because there is going to be a degree of tax on you, the follower, right? You're effectively, if you find someone with good information, if you find someone who's influencing the market, if you find someone who's moving numbers regularly and try to tail them, you're consistently going to be getting a little bit worse of the number on average. And when you are not getting the worst of the number, it's because the market didn't like that pick. So those are by definition the worst of the batch, right? And if you and absolutely you can run into situations where you miss some small subset, some small sample, and the onus is, like you said, if you don't have the same outs, if you can't get the same liquidity and the same picks, like if it's a niche sport and the market's violent, very volatile to this, these releases, like there's a lot of reasons that make this extremely hard to tail someone profitably. And I don't know that it's necessarily. I don't know that it's a plus EV strategy. It's probably not, right? And we'll get into the fade part of this at some point as well. But I don't know that I've seen proof that you can have a long-term profitable situation if all you're doing is trying to tail someone or fade them.
Yeah, that's kind of like, that's the stark reality of it. It sucks, but it does become a difficult endeavor. Short term, you can probably have some success, but long term,
Let's separate this. Let's separate this of like thinking of it as an investment strategy over the course of a season from something like, oh, I just want to have a bet on for this game because it's Saturday night and I'm going to be watching the game of the week in the NBA, right? Like, there's for sure different degrees. If you just want some entertainment and you want to be paid for the entertainment, but you don't feel like doing the work on the handicap yourself, and you just tail someone's picks on some standalone event, whatever. Like that's not, that's probably going to eat into your overall end of the year, bankroll situation. It's a minus EV play probably in the long run. But at the same time, if you're going to enjoy it, if it's going to be fun, then big deal. Like if you have someone that happens to be an especially good golf handicapper that you chat with, who occasionally puts in plays and says, hey, this is what I'm on this weekend. And you're like, well, I'm going to watch golf and I don't even know how to start handicapping this. I'm just going to go ahead and tail this, even though I'm going to get 15 cents worse of the price, but whatever. This guy hits a crazy clip. Then the next thing now that the golf is more enjoyable for me. Like that is perfectly fine.
I think you really nailed it. Like, if you and going back to my original story where it's like I was going to move to Vegas so I could be betting,
yes.
like I was just going to follow some free cappers picks, and like I'm just waiting for him to tweet while I'm playing craps all day, drinking champagne, and I go put the plays in for 10,000 each, and then I just collect at the end of the day, go to my condo in my limousine, and that's life. That dream isn't real. That's not how this is going to work. You're never going to be able to find someone who just gives you free picks and retire off it. But like what you said, and especially, what I led with when we talked about what we did this weekend, like I had to go look. I couldn't even remember exactly because we talked to so many people, but my guy, and I will give him credit, BP at BPick Sports.
Yep.
Like I don't handicap NASCAR. I don't even like NASCAR. In fact, NASCAR sucks. But it was the Daytona 500, and it was Sunday without football. And he mentioned it in a chat, and then he talked about, I think he probably tweeted it too, where Bubba Wallace failed inspection, was going to start from the back of the pack, and one of the prices probably wasn't reflecting that yet. So I bet Kyle Busch over Bubba Wallace, and they went back and forth all race, and it made a sport I really, really don't enjoy watching. It made it sort of enjoyable as I was flipping back between that and Bridesmaids. So I, like you said, like if you want to
glowing endorsement for NASCAR. NASCAR will not be one of our new sponsors this season.
And that's the thing. Like if you want to put some recreational money on a sport you don't handicap and have some fun and enjoy watching it, like you did with golf. Like you don't handicap golf, but it made watching a little bit of those 4 rounds very enjoyable. Did that one go all 4? The Hosler one?
No.
I didn't. I said 4.
That one was safely home by the end of round 1. Yeah, in middle of round 2, it was like a 10. That was like a 10-shot gap, I think. But anyway, go ahead, please.
No, and that's the thing. Like, if it's a sport you want to do some watching, it's likely. I would say finding someone to tail sporadically on some sports like that they legitimately spend time in handicap is probably better than just throwing some darts. Like it's definitely a step up from that. If that's what you want to be doing, if you want to, hey, it's the Masters, it's the Kentucky Derby, it's the Daytona 500, it's the Olympics, it's the Champions League final, the World Cup. There's all these massive events that you can't be expected to be originating prices on all. I mean, even if you are a good originator on a different sport, it doesn't make you an expert in everything. So I do that all the time. I know you do too. It's a lot of, it's a good way. We've said this before. Not everyone listening here, their dream isn't to become a professional sports bettor. This is for sure a hobby. Yes. And UFC, two people just mentioned UFC. That's a great example, especially like over the summer when there wasn't much to bet on. I was betting so much UFC, and I was listening. My guy, the Sodsmen, they do a podcast. It sucks. They do their podcast on Wednesday nights, like the same time we do. Otherwise, I'd be in their shit live, giving them a hard time. But there's a couple good UFC podcasts I listened to. I did a bunch of reading. I talked to people I know, and then I was betting it. And yes, this is
esports CSGO. Too. Yeah. Esports, our guy. Gelati League of Legends. Woody's given us 4 out of 4 winners so far this year in League of Legends. Let's go Mad Lions.
Lockwordy. I mean, we know a few good esports guys. And God, I actually kind of do love esports too, because even at the books we have access to here in non-legal states, like that's one where there's always a live stream. Like you go on Bookmaker, you can watch. I have no idea what's going on. Like I was betting the one at CSGO, I think, where they're shooting at each other, and then somebody has to plant a bomb in a certain area, and then everyone tries to get each other. And like I watched the live odds to tell if my team was doing good or not. Like, it went from -120 to -140. We did something good.
Yes. That's great, man. Okay. Yeah. So no, but the underlying point here is that there is an art to doing this in a way that works for you. And if you go into a given, if you are following a stranger on the internet who is posting pics,
made it sound creepy.
Well, that's how, and go back to the NROP example. Like that guy was That was a stranger on the internet who was posting picks, and people all thought it was plus EV, and they were tailing those picks, right? And but keep in mind, like, the idea that you're going to be able to get down the same prices over the course of a season is not likely. Okay, and fundamentally, if this is a person with plus EV, information, they're going to move the market. Ultimately, it's going to be, so they only have to hit maybe 52.3% to be break even. Well, you now got to hit 54%. So there's a tax on you because you're getting, 10 cents worse price every single bet, right? So if you think you're really going to be able to do that for the whole season, it's just not sustainable. Like, in order to get people our football information and try to help our audience kind of be in the same spots we decided to do a live stream on Sundays this year because it was so hard otherwise to, like, get that information into people's hands in a time where they could, take action on it and not get the worst of the number. And it's extremely hard, even in a market that is as robust as the NFL. And that's the best case.
Sunday
from there fun. They go.
That was a good idea.
No, but think about how hard it was to get, like, if you weren't listening live, and the 20, 50 people that were in there live with us, who were betting those openers, like, those numbers were gone. And and that, again, this is in the NFL, for crying out loud. This is the most liquid market of them all, and for a North American sport. So you can just think about how much harder it would be for baseball, basketball, you name it. And that kind of brings me to the next point. So I used to put
real quick too, like, the fact that we had to, I mean, if you want to go all the way back, start a podcast, figure out how that all worked, figure out all the equipment and then everything, and then get it to the point where we could live stream, just because, we were putting out these plays and people were listening to this podcast like 10 hours later and realizing, like, well, I can't bet any of these numbers. So, I mean, we had to say, like, legitimately, if we want to give out free picks on NFL on Sunday openers, we have to do it live. Otherwise, and then even then, like, there's been times where I don't even get the same number you do.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It is extremely difficult. Like, I paid a tax by talking instead of clicking. So, I mean, that's the tax you pay.
Yes. Yes. And, the next kind of divergence here I want to talk about. I used to put up daily betting picks for tennis. I did it for 2 or 3 years, right? I was betting every tournament throughout the year up until the US Open, and then I stopped. And one of the reasons I stopped is because I was scaling up. I was betting at specific shops. I was seeing the numbers move, and I was like, I can't, go pick off the numbers that I like over the course of the day, and at the end of the day, just post a card of a bunch of stale crap, right? Like that, like that wasn't fair, right? And so I just stopped. I just went cold turkey. Like, I'm not posting these picks anymore because I tried to scale up, and the information is now, it's being absorbed more, faster than anyone could get it. But at the same time, like, if people want to talk tennis, people want to, talk about specific angles or picks, I'm more than happy to do that. It's just, sometimes I can tell you, hey, I bet this at this price. This is what I make it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it'll still be fair in the market. Similar thing was going on with the NBA. I started betting NBA earlier in the day. So posting my card right around tip-off wasn't fair anymore because sometimes lines had moved 4 or 5 points. And so it was, completely ridiculous. But it goes to show you, like, if somebody is winning in any given sport, especially a liquid market like this, eventually, other people, the market makers are seeing that too, and or closing line value is going to smoke people out, right? And
there are basketball plays I do not post. There are basketball plays I do not put in my bet spurts because I make the number X, the number is Y, I bet Y, and by the time I'm getting through all the accounts I'm trying to bet it at, it becomes X. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not fair. Because, let's say I think it should have been -5. It's only -3. I bet it a couple places. By the time I'm done betting it, things are moving. Other people probably are betting the same number if they're seeing value. By the time I get around to it, it's 4.5, maybe even 5. And if it was 5, I wouldn't have bet it. So it's not fair. That's not a good way to run things. It's not a good way. I'm not going to say, well, here's a bad number. Here's a stale number. Bet this. That is, I think that's kind of the core tenet to that is just, I think plenty of people do that, and that's where not only are you paying, you're paying an extra tax.
Here's the other thing: if you're doing that consistently, if you're consistently posting stale numbers, people will know. People will notice. It takes no time to figure out if you're BSing about the number, and you may be the best originator, and the number may move on every one of your play. You may be the king boss originator out there for your sport, and the number moves on it every single time, and you share it after the fact. All I'm saying is that people will see it and know.
Can't BS.
How many days before people pick up on that? 2, 3?
It doesn't take long. People get credit. My favorite is when it moves against me. And I get to say, hey, guess what? I bet this at +8.
That is fun. Yeah. I wouldn't, but you could. Yeah, it's been thrown in my face. I just got rejected on this play, but you can have it for even better number. So I mean, for sure, there are scam artists out there or people who are being a little disingenuous about what they're doing, and they're going to consistently post numbers that are, that are post Steam, and that's not helping anyone. That's building fake clout for sure. It's harder and harder to do that now that you have tracking apps and things like that. And for sure, people aren't using tracking apps. The likelihood that they're actually doing something like this is pretty good. If you go and ask someone, hey, what's your record so far this season on blank, right? Like that's a common thing that someone would ask if I put up a betting card, week 12 NFL. I'll get 2 or 3 people that'll say, hey, what's your record so far this year? Like if it's not easy to find that, like there's a reason, right? Yeah. It's either this person is so sloppy that they're not tracking this stuff, or it's not good and they don't want you to know, right? Like those are the 2 reasons that it would be hard to find someone's performance, right? And if they're making it especially hard, the chances are they're keeping bullshit records or they're keeping track of their own records, and it's like, well, not down. Yeah, I'm like 50-50 so far this season. I'm a little behind.
It's the joke I have with my buddies when we go to the casino and we leave, and I have buddies who play a lot of slots. I don't care for slots, cards or dice, and so sometimes I don't see them for an hour or 2, and then we'll meet up and head back home. And how'd you do? About even. We're about even.
About even, yeah.
About even.
So you lost everything you came with? Okay.
Yeah, about even. That's a euphemism for.
Yeah.
I'm down a bit.
I'm down a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I lost enough to hurt, but not enough to be really sad. I can still go enjoy the ride back home. But I mean, and that's that is the case too. If you're these people that. I guess we shouldn't have to say this, but the people I'm hitting 70%. They're putting out everything's a 25 unit play, or not only that, but like I'm up 700 units, and then you look and all their plays are 20 unit plays. Well, it's like, there's some context there. You need to be kind of looking back at some of that stuff. Sure. That is why, we're powered by BetSperts. Like you should, every single college basketball play I put in there. I put it in there and it tracks it for me. That's kind of nice because it'll tell me if I won, lost. And there's a nice little chart. I can't say, well, I didn't play those plays. Like you can go back and look at every single one I put in. I even put in golf now that we're doing some updates on golf. There's going to be NASCAR in there and stuff. So everything I've put in, whether you're using that, which I encourage, obviously, since there's onus, but anything you can do to track. We don't have every sport on there yet. We're still working on some developments, but you should track. And the fact that if you're going to follow someone and they don't, that's probably a red flag, right?
That's a huge red flag. Huge. No, we've mentioned all the red flags. Yeah, excessive emojis, max bomb stuff, more than 5 unit sort of plays regularly, like all that's unit inflation, past posting, posting after Steam consistently. Like these are all huge red flags. Now let's go the other way and say that you found the diamond in the rough. You found someone who's posting free plays that's actually doing it for, not disingenuous reasons, right? They're actually like, I just want to become a recognized expert in this field, or I want to make a network of friends here. And
chart.
Look at that.
Look at that red dip. That was
what happened there?
It was a bad time for Andy. It wasn't.
We only
fun.
got to -5, so that's not actually even that bad.
No,
that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. But yeah, no. Let's say you find the diamond in the rough who's doing a very good job and like lion-hearted, like they're just trying to make some friends in the space, network, share their information, get better. True blue. How do you evaluate their performance? How do you figure out if you should be telling them? Well, for sure, you should be looking at if they are beating the closing line. Okay, this is a trick that algorithms and that good bookmakers use to profile their customers. It takes about 800 to 1,000 plays to figure out if someone is plus EV or not if you only look at the results. It takes about 200 if you are looking at their performance against the closing line. If they are beating the closing line at a percentage that is higher than the hold in that market they're betting, then that is a plus EV better. And you can figure it out in about 200 plays. And so if someone's putting 5 picks up a night in the NBA or whatever, that's 100 days. No, excuse me. That's 40 days worth. So 2 months worth of plays. If you're keeping track of it, if they're keeping track of it, even better. Like, honestly, someone who is trying to prove their worth should be keeping track of that and should be, more, very transparent of like, hey, look at this closing line value I'm getting, right? And so, let's say you find this person, let's say they're handicapping baseball, right? Let's say they have a plus EV baseball model and they're just crushing out, just
plus
unreal
money line sport.
Sport. You can see it as clear as day. Like, holy smokes, look at this closing line value they're getting. Like now, you have somebody who's printing money for you in baseball. You can do a lot with that information, right? If a lot of people are catching on to it, if this person is becoming, relatively well followed, and the market is gone from just recognizing their information and moving the number, but also then you have a whole stampede of steam coming that's coming behind them that moves it even more. Like, hey, like you've unlocked some free arbitrage now. And, it's entirely reasonable. There were probably people who were listening to our podcasts on Wednesdays and, seeing if numbers were moving, beyond where a fair price would be if people were, stampeding on board. And, sure enough, there was probably value on the other side sometimes. Like, I'm sure that was the case for, some of our friends who would play plus EV stuff in baseball and golf, and basketball too, for that matter. That probably happens to you in college basketball, playing these small market teams. If you have a number that moves X plus 2, then all of a sudden the other side is plus EV probably. So, it's important to kind of always keep in mind sort of what your ultimate goal is if you're really sincerely tailing someone over a longer term time window. But, for sure, I think it's not likely you shouldn't go into any kind of a relationship tailing someone expecting that you're going to be as profitable if they even are profitable. If they're not just flipping coins.
Like you said, it's hard. It becomes difficult. If somebody is truly successful and originating, they're moving lines, and then it becomes difficult for people to follow along and bet those. So then, like at the point, like I just said, there's some basketball picks where I don't put them out because they're gone. Like the number's gone. It's not. I think I try not to be a shithead in life.
Sure.
So I don't feel like putting out a stale number. Well, a stale number is terrible, but putting out like, hey, I bet this at -3, it's -5 now. You should still bet it. Like, if I believe that, if I think it should be 7, sure, I'll tell you. I bet it at 3, it's still value at 5. But if I bet it at 3, I make it 5, it's 5 now. Like, I'm not going to put that out there. It's just, it becomes just noise. It's break even at best. Break even doesn't cover the vig, and that I think too many people don't do that, and that's where you end up. You're betting a number which probably doesn't have value anymore. You might be getting an even worse number where you're betting, and so you're paying double tax. Yeah. So just it becomes an issue there, and hopefully people are seeing that. And I think the main takeaway is here: you're probably never going to get rich just tailing someone. Like it's not a thing. So like just wipe that out of your head right away. And if you treat it like we treat it, as
I can go one step further, you're never going to get rich sports betting.
Yeah, it's hard. It's I don't think it's you have to dedicate your life to it, and you have to be a lot better at math than I am.
Yeah, and as soon as you're a winning player, you go through part 2, which is you have to stay winning while also finding ways to get your bets down. Because once you're a winner and people know it, it's that much harder for you to actually even get a bet placed. So
for bigger and bigger amounts.
Yeah.
And then when you're betting bigger amounts, downturns hurt worse. You have to keep a bigger bankroll. Your bankroll, it can't be touched. You can't be using that for the bills. You need to keep a massive amount of money liquid unless you can get a shitload of credit out. So yeah, maybe just do this for fun, because it's a fun hobby. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy, like I said, I love handicapping golf. I'm having a lot of fun talking to a lot of smart people about golf. I love sweating that 4 days. I love handicapping college basketball because it's all the time. I like talking NBA with you guys, but I don't handicap it. So I'll play some NBA stuff. I don't know dick about the WTA, but I know some smart people who do women's tennis, and I will play some of their stuff. Again, all for recreational amounts, and it's enough. Like
of course,
keep me interested in these sports. And I think more people, you're seeing a lot of this, and everybody just does the lip service to it. Like you see an ad read or an article or anything, and at the bottom it's like, they'll talk about this, that, and the other thing at the end is like, hey, if you were someone who has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLES, bets off. Just quick at the end, like just do the lip service, but like truly, like that's the key issue here. Is I think some of the problem gamblers think like, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to double down and I'm going to pay this. And, we haven't even got into touting, nor will we today, but I'm going to make money doing this. It's like the guy or the people who took personal loans to buy GameStop at an inflated price.
Yeah.
Like whenever you think whenever it turns into a get rich quick scheme, you need to take a step back and chill the F out, because if you treat this like a hobby and have fun with it, that's one thing. But if you are going to try to get massively rich tailing someone's free picks off the Bird app.
Yeah. So a couple more things real quick on free picks, and you kind of jump in if you have additional layers to this. But someone who's a tout who is occasionally doling out, here's a couple of my free pick scraps, right? Like if you think it's hard to evaluate someone without 200 plays and their closing line value, imagine just getting some of the scraps of their paid picks, and and using that in any way, shape, or form as an indicator of whether that person has plus EV action is insane. It's insane. And that is a key one. I think a lot of people fall for is hey, I'm going to give out a free pick today. That's not going to tell you anything about that person's quality of handicapping. Period.
No.
It's a single sample size of one tells you nothing. The other crazy thing, going back to your, sort of kind of commentary about problem gamblers, and we'll get into kind of the mental, toughness, difficulty of missing out on someone who's on a heater and or jumping on some, tailing someone right as the regression to the mean comes. Like that for sure is triggering. That's tough mentally. One of the things that makes me not want to share picks at all is occasionally, like like somebody will see my tennis or something like that, or an NBA pick I made, or an interview that I did where I said I played something, and I'll get a message out of the blue that's like, hey man, I never played this sport, but I saw that thing and you helped me get even with my bookie so I don't have to pay him on Monday. And it's just like, dude, like
that was your double down. Like the
double
down Sunday play. That makes me nervous.
You get a message like that and you're like, I can't, like, you're throwing free information out there. You're doing it for fun. It's one of a enormous sample size. It may not be, plus CV anyway. If they can even get the number you bet, it's probably not plus CV. It's a coin flip. And like you're flipping a coin for someone else out there. And it's like a meaningful amount of money for them one way or the other. And a sport that they don't bet, like that's messed up, man. It's messed up. And,
remember our friend the Moondog? that one NFL play he went balls deep on. Giorgio.
Oh, I do remember that.
And his buddy's like, he's not having a good Sunday. Like, don't bet an amount. I don't know. You're grown-ups, and I'm half libertarian anyway, so I shouldn't tell you what to do. But like, don't bet an amount that will ruin your day. Like, that's step one.
Yeah. But still,
but the Sunday double down, that is a classic move. I've seen.
And you have this enormous audience, and you're throwing picks out there for free, and you don't have the respect for how they're being used, and it's humbling.
The second best one is when you put out like 5 or 6, let's say, basketball plays. Hey, which one of these is your strongest?
Which one of these is what's your play of the day? What's your play of the day here, man?
Yeah, which one do you like the most? Because I want to put all my money on that. Like, I don't think I want to pick one because I know I'll pick the wrong one. But you know what happens? Right. You go 5-1 in that scenario.
Of course, every single time. Okay. How about the other side of the coin here? Are there people out there that are so bad at this that you can make a long-term profit or expect to make a long-term profit by following their picks and fading them with regularity?
I don't think so. It's so hard. Okay.
Help me understand why that is.
I mean, without getting into Z-scores and outliers, and like there are people who are bad, but most people who are bad, they're bad because they're somewhere in the 48 to 50% range, or 48 to 51, where they're just bad enough to just consistently lose juice, have a bad, if you look at how most people bet, if you actually track them, and I look at other people's accounts on BetSperts all the time, a lot of if you lose money, it's not because like, oh, you're so bad that I can just play the opposite and win. It's
because you're flipping coins.
Yeah, well, it's 3 steps forward, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. Like, it doesn't seem like you're moving backwards very fast, but you're moving backwards slow enough where you do it the other way, you're still betting -110. It's not enough. Like, there's nobody who loses that badly that you can just straight up fade them. I mean, everybody has those stretches. I had an 0-5 day. I had like a,
of course. No. Even if you are very good, you will have small sample size where you will have very clear, obvious negative performance. And guess what? Like, we're pattern recognition machines. That's the way the human brain works. And if you see someone has lost 6 out of 7, you're like, oh wow, that's a lot of losing, right? But see, no, even Femi, like, look, the bubble was a tiny sample size, right? Like, it was so quick. There was 8 games and 20 teams. So it was too small to really know that anyone was you're getting any signal there. And but you see someone with getting swept 2 nights in a row, and you're like, okay, this person sucks at this, and they will always suck at this, and I can bet the other side and make money. No. What the real lesson you probably can take away is I should get into the bookmaking business, because there are people out there that are this bad at this that will lose money because I get to bet them. I get to write those bets at +110. You have to write those bets at -110 if you are trying to fade someone. Yeah. And that's the problem. And for almost everyone out there who's like, doing this recreationally, doing this for fun, coin flipping over the course of an NBA season, you make, 400 plays or whatever, you're going to lose. You're going to go 200 and 200, and you're going to lose 20 units. Like, that's just the way it goes. And what? You're going to lose 20 units because you're flipping coins, and it will look on a graph like you're a profitable fade, but in reality you're not, because it's all about the juice. And even someone who you would think is impossibly bad, I would say, is pretty clearly, going to regress to the mean at some point. I don't know what's going on in Twitch right now, but
I like killing me. I like the Twitch comments. Like,
the Twitch folks are getting frisky. I like it. Okay. So yeah, no, it's not profitable to long-term fade someone, especially if you're paying for their picks, especially if if you're not booking them at plus 110, then you're in deep trouble. So, it's just, let's just keep that in mind. The worst player in the world long-term over the sample size of 1,000 picks is going to go 50-50.
Yeah. Big enough sample. I just love the law of large numbers. It's gonna come back to it at some point. I mean, there's stretches like I had a 12-0 run in college basketball, but I also had like it was like a 1-10 run. Like those things even out over enough time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, we're getting close to an hour, so we should probably wrap it up. I think the main points we wanted to take away from this free-flowing discussion about free picks, tailor fade. Number one, always try to suss out the motivations of the person posting the picks. Always try to figure it out, because it's entirely possible that they're not doing it for altruistic reasons. Number two, even if you do find someone who is doing it for altruistic reasons and or someone that's worth networking, someone that you can use as a supplement to your entertainment because they handicap sports that you don't, and they are winning at a winnable clip, and you can actually tail them and make it worth your while, still know how to vet those people and vet them based on the 200 pick sample, and are they beating the closing line? Like, that's what you should really realistically care about. And then number three, it's not profitable to long-term fade someone, and realistically, it's not profitable to long-term tail someone either. You're not going to get rich doing this. It's just the odds are stacked against you. If you want to be long-term profitable in this industry, you need to be a bookmaker.
That's not a bad idea. Should we cross the counter? It feels a lot easier just to write tickets.
I know, right? Let's just write plus 110 tickets instead of making minus 110 bets. What are we thinking?
That's kind of the ticket.
Man, these are just some tough questions that we're getting asked here on the Twitch.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one. I'm going to have to think on that one, Squish.
Any final points you wanted to weave into this discussion before we wrap?
No, I mean, and just like in all things, take it easy. Like, just take it easy.
Yeah.
Don't go nuts with this. Like you said, the guy's doubling down on Sundays. The guy's, hey, what's your best play so I can put half my bankroll on that shit? Like, don't do that. Just always take it easy. Everything always boils down to bankroll management. It's boring. It's awful. It's stupid. But
hey, and right. And the flip side, and the take it easy. Yeah. And the flip side of that is, if you have something that you think is good, and you want to put your information out there, start to get noticed, great way to do it. Great way to build an audience quickly, give away free plays that are winning. Like that is a very, very effective way of building a reputation and an audience, but you got to do it with a careful mind. And, there's pitfalls. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you're getting messages like, thanks, man, you helped me make my mortgage payment, and you're like, oh Christ, like, this isn't why I'm into this. I'm not trying to do this to be nervous about some guy that some stranger's mortgage payment. Like, this isn't cool. So you
should have that on auto withdrawal anyway. Out of sight, out of mind. No, good discussion. And then, as always, if anyone has anything to add or any questions, anything we missed, hit us up on Twitter all the time.
Absolutely. Always willing to continue talking to folks, and best of luck as you get into the Aussie Open and the basketball going on right now.
The Genesis Invitational this weekend on God knows what, because they don't really show golf on TV.
Okay, ready to wrap?
Yeah, let's call it a night. Thanks for everyone in the chat, even all about the Squish. A lot of people whose names started with X today. That was something I was noticing. That was Xerxes and a
pattern recognition, man. Yeah, it's like you walk up to that roulette table, you see it's gotten 8 out of the last 9 black, and you think, oh my God, there's something special about this table. No, it's not how it works.
It's not fair.
All right, take it easy, man. We'll catch up on Wednesday. Hey, did you see people starting to get their sweatshirts?
I did. Nature's healing. People are getting their deep dive sweatshirts.
It's not sweatshirt weather where you are though. It's like full on parka weather, right?
Oh, you put a coat on over the sweatshirt.
It's like bubble weather, right? Okay, 3 layers. It's layer season. I like it.
could